to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today we're going to be looking at a puzzle that has had our testers dancing in the Sudoku aisles. This is called Reciprocity by Ictus. It has been recommended about 6 times, which is quite a lot actually, and Ictus themselves also sent it in yesterday saying that they are particularly proud of this one, so I'm looking forward to giving it a go. And very simple rules today, and I'll read those out in just a second or two. A couple of things to mention first. First, some birthdays. So let's start off with Anna Beatrice from Vienna. Your husband Antonio's been in touch, Anna, and apparently it is your birthday today. So I hope that you have a splendid day with lots of cake. Also, Carter Davis, it's your birthday too. And all the way from Chile, I'm reliably informed that Danny and Tamara, who are twins, it's your birthday as well. So I hope you have a great day. I understand that you solve together on the weekends, which I thought was rather lovely. So I think all the way over in Chile, I hope that you're having an absolutely brilliant day today. Now, the only other thing I've got to mention is, of course, that tomorrow is the 1st of July, and that means it is Patreon Reward Day. And we have something really stellar for you tomorrow, which is this pack of 13 puzzles from no less than Joseph Nehme. Now, Joseph is an absolutely top-tier constructor, and this pack is full of beautiful puzzles themed around equal sum lines, one of my very favourite constraints. So you'll definitely enjoy it. There will be shout-outs for entries we receive very quickly, and there will, of course, be a competition prize as well for anybody who can submit the final answer by the 20th of July, and that'll go live tomorrow at 4 p.m. UK time. So look out for your Patreon updates then. Now, nothing else to tell you. Let me read you the rules of Reciprocity, and we'll find out what's going on. They are as follows: normal Sudoku rules apply. In cages, digits must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of the cage, and digits cannot repeat within a cage. And digits along an arrow must sum to the digit in that arrow's circle. So let's pause and take stock of what this means. That means that those 7 cells there sum up to 38, and what we can't do is repeat digits. So we can't put sort of 8 there, 8 there. We're not broken the rules of Sudoku there, but we have broken the rules of Killer Sudoku. We have repeated a digit in a cage. So don't do that, or you'll get the puzzle wrong. And then along arrows, those 3 digits there sum to that digit. So if this was a 1, 2, 3 triple, 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6. So we'd have to put 6 in the circle. And that's how arrows work. Now, do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. It's a while since I've done an Ictus puzzle actually. So this ought to be fun. I think I said the way to play is to click the link under the video, didn't I? Sometimes I forget what I'm saying. It might be my COVID brain. But anyway, now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And the first things I'm seeing are there are lots of circles here that have a restriction because they've got 3-cell arrows stemming from them. And we know that a 3-cell arrow, if the digits have to be different on that arrow, in fact we looked at this in the example, 1 plus 2 plus 3 would be the minimum. So this cell, and this cell all have to be at least equal to 6. And okay, it looks like, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it looks like we've got some very, very sturdy cages here, by which I mean they are almost maximal. So that cage there is an 8-cell cage. This cell here is an 8-cell cage, and I want to say that that cell is an 8-cell cage. So in fact, the only cage that is not 8 cells is this little 38 cage, and it's only little by dint of its brothers and sisters around the grid. So we can do some maths, can't we? Because, let me ask you a question. Imagine this wasn't an 8-cell cage. Imagine it was a 9-cell cage. What would it sum to? And this is, of course, is the secret. Now, the secret is something I only tell my very favourite people, but if you're watching this video, you are, of course, among that brethren. So the secret is that any complete box of a Sudoku, any complete column, whoops, lost my army, or any complete row, because it contains the digits 1 to 9 once each, sums to 45. Now, that means a 9-cell cage would sum to 45 because it cannot contain a repeated digit, because you can't repeat a digit in a cage. Now, this cage is 8 cells large, but sums to 39. So it must just be missing the difference between 45 and 39. So there is no 6 in this cage. In the 36 cage, there must be no 9 in that, because if it was a 45, if it was 1 cell larger, it would add to 45. So it must just be missing the 9, and the 43 cage is missing a 2. And the 38 cage, let's just finish the thinking, I suppose, is missing 2 digits that sum to 7, which is actually not very helpful. But I'm thinking now about where 6 goes in column 1, because it's only got, well, it's got 2 broad choices. It's either sitting in the corner, which it's not, actually. Right, it's got 1 choice left. Okay, where does 6 go in column 1? Now, we know it's not in the cage. It could have gone on the arrow, and in fact it does go on the arrow. If it goes on the arrow, though, the circle has to be a 9, because the only way we can keep the total down is by going 1, 2, and 6, adding up to 9. If we went any higher than that, we would have a 2-digit number in the corner of the grid. But why do I think the 6 can't go in the corner? Well, then I've got a problem with those 4 cells. Now, the only way of making a 3-cell arrow add up to 6, we've already looked at this, is with 1, 2, 3 triples. And that would mean I'd have 4 cells in box 7 that would have to be selectable from only 3 different digits, and that will not work. So this is wrong. And if it's wrong, the 6 must in fact therefore, whoopsie, live on this arrow, which must be a 1, 2, 6 arrow, and black plonks a 9 into the corner of the grid. Right, and now I'm seeing some Sudoku implications of that, which is unlike me, because where we know there's no 6 in this 39 cage, but we know there must be a 1, there must be a 2, and there must be a 9, therefore, and those digits cannot go in those cells. So that's a 1, 2, 9 triple, which means this is not a 9, which means there must be a 1 on this arrow, because now the only way of making a total of 6, 7, or 8 in 3 cells is with a 1 on the arrow. Otherwise, this would be a 2, 3, 4 minimum and add up to 9. Right. Wow. Okay, I'm seeing 2 things here. Yeah, right. Let's start off with, I think, the most powerful thing, which is the nature of 1 in this column. Because this 43 cage is missing a 2 only. So it does have a 1 in it. But we now know the 1 is not in the sort of main stem. So it must be in one of those 3 cells, which now points at this 9 arrow. This is so beautiful. And now you can't put a 1 on this 9 arrow. So the only way of making that work is with 2, 3, 4. So this is 2, 3, 4. Oh, and now column 8 becomes absolutely mighty. Because I was actually going to talk about where 2 went in this column before, because I noticed that you can't put 2 in the 43 cage, so there is a 2 on this arrow. But now I think it's much better, because where do 3 and 4 go in the 43 cage? And the answer is not in the bottom bit of it. So there must be a 3 and a 4 on stem, which means there's no 3 or 4 on this arrow. Well, therefore it cannot be 6, because that would be 1, 2, 3, and it cannot be 7, because that would be 1, 2, 4. So that is 8, and this must be a 1, 2, 5 triple. That is so, I love things like this. It does feel like the digits are dancing. Right, so now, how does this work then? This domino adds up to 8, and it's not allowed to use 1 or 2. So it must be a 3, 5 pair. So the top row now, we've actually basically pinpointed 6 digits, all but. We've got 4s, 6s, and 7s to place. And that's not 6 by Sudoku. And now we can repeat the trick we did with the 1269 here in the 43 cage. Because we know the 43 cage is lacking only a 2, so it must have 1, 5 and 8 in it, and now we know where they go. They have to go in those cells. Which means we've got a 6, 7 to complete row 9. And is that somehow powerful? Almost, I think. These 2 digits are under a bit of pressure. And that's because they can't be, neither of these cells can be a 6 or a 7 because there's a 6, 7 in the box. But they also can't be 1, 2, 5 or 8. So they have to be 3, 4 or 9, I think. Which is a bit disappointing. There may be a way of doing better than that, but I can't see how to do that straight away at least. Right, so am I about to grind to an almighty halt? We hope not. So we know there's no 6 in this one. So, no, that's not useful. The 6 in box 1 is in one of those cells. We know there's no 9 in this one. Oh, so 9 is very nearly restricted in box 2, actually. I was about to get excited. It can't go in here, and it can't go on an arrow, because that's going to force this to be a double-digit number. It can go there, and it can go there, I think. So it's only got 2 possible positions. 9 in box 3 is restricted now, because 9 can't go in the 36 cage, so that's got to be in one of 2 places. Do I know there's a 9 in here or not? Maybe... Oh, in fact there's... Right, in fact there's not a 9 in here. Because if there was a 9 in here, where would I put 9 in column 7? I'd either have to put it on an arrow, which would make this a 10 at least, or I'd have to put it in an illegal cage. Right, sorry. There is a much simpler way of seeing this. Where does 9 go in column 7? It can't go in the 36 cage. It can't possibly go on an arrow. So it must go in this circle. It's just forced. It's just fixed. It's got to go here. That was a relatively simple deduction if we'd thought about it the right way. I'll use the royal we there. Now these squares have got to be 6, 7 or 9 to complete this column, and we know one of these is a 9. We know this is a 9, so we know one of those 3 is a 9. And okay, and that might be as far as we can take that. Oh, no, it's not. I've got to put a 9 in the 38 cage. It can only go there. Where? Yeah, we're missing 2 digits that add to 7 in the 38 cage, so then there must be a 9 here, because this 9 and this 9 combine to lock out the rest of the cage. So that's a 9, which means this is not a 9, which means there's now a 1 on this arrow, because it's adding up to only 6, 7 or 8, which means this is not a 1 on the 8 arrow here. This is not a 9 by Sudoku, look. Oh, yeah, no, this is gorgeous. Right, where does 9 go in box 1? It can't go in this 36 cage. It still can't go into it, and it can't go on an arrow, so it must go there. And that fixes the 9 in box 2, which is rather good. So let's get rid of our pencil marking. Whoopsie. And get rid of 9 from here. We can place the 9 in box 6. It's got to go here. And I feel like we might be able to get all the 9, nearly. There's a 9 in one of those 2. So we're left, no, and we get a 9 here as well. Yep, that's good. So now I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 7 9s. I'm left with an X-wing on, right, I'm left with an X-wing on 9s, but that can't be a 9, because that would put a 9 there, and that would clash. So the 9s are actually all resolved. Beautiful. And now for our next trick, we will, what should we do? Should we look at 8s? Or something else? I don't know. 1 has to be in one of 2 places in box 3, look. Because of that, we now know there's a 1 on this arrow. Goodness. Maybe I look at the 38 now? The 38 is missing 2 digits that sum to 7. Right, okay. So this cell is clearly interesting in that context. Because this cell, whatever's in that cell, cannot go in the 38 cage anymore. Because it sees that one by the medium of Sudoku and these by the medium of row Sudoku. So this is part of the combination of 2 digits that add up to 7 that are not in the 38 cage. Now that means that the 38 cage is missing either 1, 6 or 2, 5, which means it has got 3, 4 in it, which means this digit appears in the 38 cage, and that means that digit has to be in exactly that cell, which is rather beautiful. Now that gives me a 3, 4 pair in row 7. Okay. So the counterpart to this that is not in this 38 cage has to go somewhere in row 8. So it has to go here because it's not a 3 or a 4. So that cell is either a 1, a 6 or a 5. And it's not a 6. We can see that straight away because of the 6, 7 pair there. So this is 1 or 5, which means this is 2 or 6. That feels like it's almost quite clever, doesn't it? But not good enough. Ah, okay. Right, Sudoku deserted me once again. That's a 2, 3, 4 triple. That's beautiful. So if that's a 2, 3, 4 triple, neither of those squares is a 2, which means this is a 6, which means this is a 1, this is a 2, and now we know the 6's counterpart over here, i.e. the counterpart that cannot go in the 38 cage, must be a 1. So I get a 1 over there for my troubles. I get a 2 in one of these cells, so that's not a 2. These squares have got to be 5, 7 and 8 by Sudoku. Now, do we know any more about that? The answer to that is I don't think we do. Okay, so no, alright, so I don't quite know how to take that forward. This 2, is that doing something? This, no. Oh, okay, this is not a 1 anymore. So this is 5 or 8. And whatever this, right, okay, whatever that digit is, remember, that has to go in the 36 cage, because the 36 cage is missing a 9 only. So this digit is in one of those 4 cells. As is this digit. Right. Okay, where does 8 go in this box? It can't go on a 3-cell arrow, so 8 is in one of these 3 cells. And that means that in this column, 8 is either on the 9 arrow, which would have to have a 1 with it, or it's here. Right, okay, this is beautiful. This is not a 1-8 arrow. And it's not a 1-8 arrow because if we do try and make this a 1-8 arrow, let's just put it in to show what would happen. I've now got to put a 1 there in box 3. And now I can't put a 1 in my 36 gauge. Remember, the 36 gauge is only missing a 9. So this is not a 1-8 arrow. And if it's not a 1-8 arrow, it hasn't got an 8 on it. So where does the 8 go in column 7? Yep, it goes there. So that's 8. We've got a 1-5 pair here now. We've got... I don't know what we've got. We've got... Okay, what are these two digits then? By Sudoku, they're a 2-5 pair. We've got 3, 4 and 6, 7 pairs in the box. So this is not a 5. So there's a 5 in one of these cells. We've got a 2, 3, 4, 5 quadruple in row 7. So these squares are from 6, 7 and 8 only. Now that's on a circle, so that's a 6, 7 or 8. Yeah, okay, so where does this digit, let's give it a colour, where does the red digit go in box 2? Well, it's not a 3, 5 and it's not a 9, so it must go there. So that's a 6, 7 or 8. And now it can't repeat in my 36 gauge because it's already appeared in the 36 gauge. And it's not there. Oh, that's so pretty. Oh, yeah. Okay, where does it go in column 7? And the answer is, I think, here only. Because it can't repeat in the cage. It's not a 3 or a 5. If it went here, it would clash with itself because it makes an appearance there. It's a red digit. It's not a 2 or a 5, it's not a 9, so it must go there. That's the red digit, which means these red digits all turn into 8s. Which means this is 7, which means these are not 7. So now we've got a 5-8 pair here. We've got a 6 here by Sudoku. And presumably... He says, trying to buy for time. That must get redded because it's a red digit now. So the red digit over in box 1 is in one of 2 places. It's in one of those 2 places. Now the red digit in box 6 is in one of 2 places. And I think the red digit in box 4 has got a lot of places it could live in. Right, these are not 8s anymore, are they? So, okay. So has that shed light upon the world? That's the question. This is a 2 or a 5 now on this 9 arrow. So this 9 arrow either has a 7 or a 4 as its friend. Right, so now in this column, do I know that's a 1? I remember putting that 1 in when I was looking at that. I don't know if that was correct or whether that was me showing what happened if I put a 1 on this arrow. I'm not sure. How would I have known this? That would have mean I would have known this was not a 1. That would mean I have to put a 1. No, I didn't do any thinking around this. I don't believe that. I think that's a remnant of me doing an example. But what I was thinking about, which got me thinking about whether this could be a 1, is I was thinking about this column and thinking about 1s and 6s. Because everything else, I think, is pencil marked into a cell that's outside of this cage. But 1 isn't. 3, 4, 5, and 6 isn't. So this cage must have a 1 and a 6 in this, in this stripe. This stripe has got 1 and 6 in it. Now, I think 1 might be interesting there, but what I can see is that 6 is more interesting. Because where does 6 then go in this box? Because it can't go here, because it's in a blue cell. It definitely can't go on an arrow that adds up to only a maximum of 8. So I think that is a 6. Which means I've got a 6 in one of 2 places in box 5. Oh, for goodness sake, this is so clever. This is why it's called reciprocity, because these cages keep bouncing backwards and forwards between each other. Right, so now the question I want to ask in box 2 is, where does 7 go? And the answer to that is I don't know really, except it's in this domino. But if it's in that domino, we know it's not in a blue cell. So where does it go in column 7 again? It's got to go there. So that's a 7, and that's a 2, and that's a 5. Good grief. And now, well, that's a 6. I've just seen that. That's a 6. That's a 7. But now, this cage has to have a 2 in it. So there's now a 2 in one of those 3 cells. Good grief. Good grief. Right. Okay. So now I'm going to argue this is an 8 circle. Because I know that there's a 1-2 pair there. Let's label those yellow for a moment. And I know there's a 2 in one of those cells. So my question is, how many more 2s are we anticipating finding in boxes 1 and 2 combined? Well, hopefully your answer to that is no more 2s. Because in this box, there's 1, 2, and in this box, there's 1, 2 in a correctly completed Sudoku. But I know that those 2 2s are to be found. There's 1 in those 2 cells, and there's 1 in those 3 cells. So I can't put any 2s on this arrow. And if I can't put any 2s on this arrow, it cannot add up to 6 or 7, and it must be an 8. That is so... This is really good. This is really good. So now, there's no 2 on this, it must be 1, 3, 4. It's the only way it can work. The only peculiar thing about that is that doesn't seem to have done anything. Hang on a minute. How does that not do anything? That is weird as anything. Okay, I'm going to actually pencil mark this row, I think, because I've got effectively 5 digits. So I need 2, 5, 6, and 7 into these cells. 2, 5, 6, and 7. Now that is not 2, and that's not 6 by Sudoku. This one is not 2, and it's not 7. So this is 5 or 6. And this one is not 5 or 6, so that's 2 or 7. Yeah, okay. So that, yes, the simple question is, where does 6 go in this row? It can only go here. So that's a 6. Now that's right. Okay, that's lovely. That's in the 36 gauge. So where do I put 6 in row 3 now? It can't go in these cells, it can't go there, so it's got to go there. Which means there's a 6 in one of those 2 cells. So how many 6s have we got? 1, 2, yeah, okay, I have got 7. I'm just left with this X-wing of 6s in boxes 4 and 5. But now we must know stuff about these 3 blue digits. So these blue digits are now from 1, 3, 4 and 5. And well, I can see this one is the same as that one. So that's 1, 3, 4 or 5. And that's interesting because those 2 cells have to find a home in box 4. Well, they're not 2s and 9s, so that's 1, 3, 4, 5. So these 3 digits are the same digits. Oh, this is gorgeous. Right, okay. They're not 3 and they're not 5. Because if this is double 3, I'm ruling 3 out of this arrow. If this is double 5, I'm ruling 5 off the arrow. So this is now not 3 or 5. It's, oh, whoopsie, I did not mean to do that. I wanted to get rid of 3 and 5. Right, so this is 1 and 4. Right, what's the point of that? What's the smell of parsley? Sorry, I've been listening to a lot of Undermilk Wood again. Okay. 5 in row 6 now has to be in those 2 cells, and that is interesting because look, I've got my 5s aligning now in well, in these cells and these cells. So how many 5s am I anticipating there being in these 2 columns combined? Well, the answer to that is 2. There's going to be 1 in this column and 1 in this column. And I know that those 2 5s are in those 4 cells. So I can't add more 5s to that concoction. So that's got to be 3. That's got to be 5. That's 2. That's 7. That's 4 by Sudoku now, which means that's 7. That's 5. Suddenly we're actually getting somewhere. So now that's a 1 by Sudoku. So this is not a 1. In fact, this digit is just a 3, isn't it? So this is not a 3 or a 5. So this is a 1-4 pair now. This is a 5, just straightforwardly doing Sudoku. So 5 can be placed in box 4. This 5 and this 5, push it into this cell. And that means that cell's a 6, which means that cell's a 6. Now all the 6s are done. And I know what else I can do. I now know what the yellow digits are. And that's because, look, I know that the only digits missing from the 36 cages are 9. And I've already got in it 1, 3, 4, 6 and 8. So I need to put a 5 in it. So this must be 2, 5, 7. Which means that's a 2 by Sudoku. So that's a 2. This is a 5, 7 pair. This is a 1. This is a 2. And we can... Oh, I know what we can do. The 5, 7 pair is disambiguated by the 5s here, just as this was disambiguated. I can't put a third 5 into these 2 columns. So that's 7. That's 5. And now... this is a 2, so this is not, so that's a 2 by Sudoku, just using our pencil marks. And this is not a 1, so this has got to be 3 or 4, and it's not 3, so this is 4, this is 3, this is 4, this is 3, this is 3, so this is now 1-4 pair at the top. These squares should be known now, they've got to be 4 and 7. And there, well, okay, so that means that orange is 1, so we can 1-ify all these digits, we can 4-ify this, get the 4 and the 7 over here. These 2 squares have now got to be 8 and 3, which, well, I don't know the order of that, but I am quite pleased to see a 3-8 pair, because that is very much in keeping with the 39 cage. We haven't got a repeated digit in there, so that suggests that we haven't made a ricket yet. Right, this square is a naked single, 7. Can't be 1 or 4 because of the row. So this is a 1 or a 4 and it sees a 1. So that's a 4, that's a 1, that's a 4. These squares down here have got to be 2 and 7, I think. and there's a 7 there. So 7 goes in, 2 goes in, 2 goes in by Sudoku. That means this is a 3 or an 8, both of which seem possible. Okay, let's pencil mark this then. 2, 3 and 8. So this is the 2. And now this digit is 3 or 8 and it sees 8. So that's 3. That's 3. That's 8. That's 8. That's 3. This 1 is doing the 1 and the 5, which places the 5. I need a 4 in that box. I need a 3 here and a 4 here. And that might be the puzzle solved. That was stunning. That is my idea of just Sudoku perfection. Because it's not monstrously difficult, but the way that the digits are sort of bounce around these cages, I don't know, it just feels so cool when you're solving it. It really does. That is just stunning. I'm trying to think what my favourite bits of this were. I loved some, it was like the 8s and the 7s in this box, and noticing they couldn't go on this arrow. And then, yeah, the 7 having to be placed in this column in that position was gorgeous. And then the 5s, actually, I liked how they worked. I got a 5 pair here. Yeah, that was it. So this little tiny arrow plonking this digit to be the same as these, and that fixed the 5 into this domino, and that resulted in more beauty, didn't it? Gosh, that was just wonderful. Ictus, take a bow. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I do enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic. Spend my days with a woman kind, smoke my stuff and granny hand on my wine. Made up my mind and make a new start. Go to California with an aching in my heart. And one told me there's a girl out there, loving her eyes and flowers in her hair.